Hello everyone and welcome back to another YouTube video here on the YouTube platform. And this one is yet another music making tutorial. I'm going to be showing you guys how to make indie folk type beats inside of FL Studio. You don't really need a whole lot for this video, but the one thing I definitely recommend is having an acoustic guitar. Pretty hard to make any sort of folk music without an acoustic, and any sort of emulation plugin type deals usually don't sound very good. But the rest of the stuff that I'll use in this video, you can pretty much get away with using plugins and or samples. So without any further ado, let's get into this video. So we're going to start off with acoustic guitar. When it comes to your acoustic guitar part, you want to just be playing basic, open, simple cowboy chords. So just chords like C, G, A minor, maybe E minor, just stuff like that. And what I like to do so that it's not super boring and basic is just take a capo and put it on whatever fret of your choosing. And of course you can do some finger picking, fingerstyle stuff. But the most basic folky strumming pattern that you're going to hear on a lot of folk and indie folk songs is basically just down, down, up, down, up. And you can play that at various speeds. I'm going to be playing it a little bit faster, kind of like this. So this is cool, but we still really want to make it a little bit more folky. So the way that we're going to do that is by adding some little melodies in there using hammer-ons and pull-offs. The great thing about using open chords is that you can pretty much kind of do that anywhere with pretty much any note other than the root note of the chord, and you're going to get a nice little sounding melody. What I'm going to do that is on the second chord of my chord progression, which is this. I'm going to go like this. So for the beat that I make here today, I'm actually going to have two chord progressions. We're going to have one for the chorus, and we're going to have one for like the other portions of the song. The first chord progression is going to be this. And the chord progression for the chorus is going to get a little bit more dramatic sounding. It just adds a lot more emotion by putting this A minor shape in there. So now that we've got our two little chord progressions, I think it's time to record this bad boy. Also, as far as the tempo of this beat, I find that the sweet spot is kind of like 110 to 120, but anywhere from 100 BPM to 130 BPM, you'll be able to get a nice little folky vibe. As for the recording setup, it's very simple. I have this cheapo $20 dynamic microphone about 6 inches away from the 12th fret of my acoustic guitar, and we're just gonna record it. Alright, so now that I've recorded that, I'm actually going to record it again, because what I like to do is record the same thing twice and then pan one to the left and one to the right, and that way you get a nice little stereo vibe effect. It also makes your guitar sound bigger and fuller, and it's just a nice little thing to do. Alright, so now for the non-chorus chord progression, I'm actually going to record a little fingerstyle thing. It's not really going to be a main portion of the song, but it'll be a nice little added layer in there. Now I'm going to bring out a guitar pick for this. You might have been using a pick already, which is fine, but I'm doing so because now I'm actually going to record a little lead part. And a little pro tip that I'm going to be using is that if you play closer to the bridge when you're playing your acoustic, you're going to get a lot more twangy sound. It's very easy to hear how much of a difference it makes. As far as coming up with lead patterns and melodies and things like that, what I do is I just loop the chords that I've recorded over and over, and I just play around on the guitar until I find a little melody that I like and that sounds catchy. And then once you got a little something, record that bad boy. Alright, so I think we're pretty much chill with that. If I come up with any other little melodies or ideas on the acoustic guitar, I will record them later. But for now, we're putting this away and pulling this out. And naturally, we're going to place a capo on the first fret once more. The main focus of this track is just for adding another extra layer, so I'm not even really going to focus on all the little melodies and stuff. I'm just going to focus on strumming those chords. And you know the drill, we're going to record that twice so we can double track. So now at this current moment in time, we are going to move on to drums. The drums that I'm going to record are about as simple as a drum recording can get. However, I am aware that a good many of you do not actually have access to a drum set or maybe even play drums. So this is a perfect time to mention the little mini drum kit that I made specifically kind of for this video. I'm just calling this a mini drum kit because it doesn't have as many sounds as my normal full drum kits. Therefore, it's also much more affordable. It's only $9.99 and it still contains 12 live recorded loops and also 30 live recorded one-shot samples. All the drums in there are tailored to more like softer genres. That's why it's called super soft drums. I'll play a few of the samples for you right here. Those are a few of the loops. Here's some of the kick samples. Those are probably my favorite part of this drum kit. Here's some snares, some little percussion sounds, a few cymbals. So yeah, it's a pretty cool drum kit. It's definitely worth checking out. Also, I am going to make a full version of this kit, a bigger one with a lot more sounds. So if you buy this mini kit right now, you will get a discount when the full version comes out. So if you want to program in the pattern that I'm going to play on the drums in a minute here, it is extremely simple. All you have to do is pick your kick sound, right click, fill each 4 steps. You can also add in a little tambourine hit at the end of the pattern here. But instead of just leaving that dry, you want to add a ton of reverb onto that. Also within the drum pack, there's a loop that's basically the snare thing that I'm going to play in a minute. It's kind of just like a train beat. I don't really know exactly how to describe it, but you'll hear it. One thing you can also do to kind of humanize this a little bit is right click on the kick and then just do piano roll. Then do Alt R on this to randomize the velocities. In newer versions of FL Studio, there's like a humanize feature that just does all this stuff for you, I think. But what I like to do is hold down Alt and then just click and drag these a little bit off grid. Like don't go crazy or anything and put them out here. But as a human being playing a drum set, you're not going to play every single note exactly on the line. So when you're programming drums, if you want them to sound human, you don't want them to be perfectly on grid. Like I said, extremely simple drum pattern. Definitely go check out the kit down in the description below. So recording these drums is just going to be like the easiest thing ever. I have a good old kick mic right here in the kick drum, and then I'm just going to have a room mic over there to capture more of the high end and the room noise of the kick. And I'm quite literally just going to be doing this. For the snare drum layer, I could record it together with the kick drum, but I'm just going to overdub it. We are going to remove this and grab these. All I'm going to do is this. And I'm going to record that with a snare top microphone, snare bottom microphone, and this overhead right here. You can't see it, but this overhead. I'm also going to record tambourine, which is also the easiest thing ever. When I record tambourine, it tends to be very loud. So I usually tend to have the microphone a little bit of a distance away, which is fine because that way it also gets more room noise in there. But just every once in a while, I'm going to do one of these. I think I'm going to play it on every 8th kick or something like that. Just not super often because we are going to reverb the absolute heck out of this thing. So now we're going to bust out the instrument that I am the most prolific with. Not everybody's going to be as good as I am using this thing, because everybody on this channel knows that I am actually the best shaker player who ever lived. And we're going to get a little fancy, a little crazy with this shaker pattern. Instead of just doing your normal, we're going to be accenting the 2 and the 4 where the snares would be. So it's kind of going to sound like... I know, pretty complex, pretty crazy stuff we're doing here. But since we don't have a traditional boom, boom, kind of snare thing going on, this is going to help to kind of secure the rhythm and stuff. I forgot to mention I also recorded some ride cymbals just using the brushes on the cymbal. I just did that at the end of the take when I was recording the snare stuff, but I would highly recommend just using the ride samples that are in my super soft drums drum pack. Check it out. Okie dokie, all of you little artichokies. Now that we have drums, the next logical step, at least to me, is to record some bass guitar. Now, if you've got a stand-up bass or something like that, feel more than free, more than welcome to record that, because that would sound really cool. And if I had one, I'd probably do that too. But I've just got one of these fancy modern bass guitars, so we're going to use that. As for the bass part, it's going to be very simple. I'm just going to play pretty much the root note of the chords. But before the chord switches, I'm just going to add a little extra melody note thingy. Pretty basic, pretty simple stuff. We're not doing anything groundbreaking here. Alright, so now that we got that going, I think we're going to add a little bit of some electric guitar in there. Now, I don't by any means want this to be an electric guitar focused song. Because this is indie folk, there's a lot more focus on the folk aspect, which is going to be the acoustic instruments. But it's nice to have a little bit of some electric stuff going on in there as well. So let's just see what we can come up with here. Okay, I just went and ate some oatmeal, which is not a necessary step in this process, but if you'd like to do that, it might help you out. Okay, first things first, we're going to tune this thing. And we're essentially just going to do the same thing here and record 2 layers of the main chords. Okay, so another guitar thing I'm going to do here is add some sort of main chorus lead sound. I'm going to do the exact same thing that I did with the acoustic lead part. Just play the chords and everything I've got until I come up with something that I like. Alright, so I think the final thing I'm going to do here with the electric guitar is just a little slide guitar thing. Something very simple, just using a slide. Okay, I lied actually. The last electric guitar thing that I'm going to do is just like a little one-note melody. I like to do these in a lot of the tracks that I make because it's a really easy way to add guitar layers and add some depth or whatever to your tracks. But it's just a really repetitive melody, only using a couple notes. Something like this. I always try to record more guitar layers than I need and then just take them out later. Alright, so I think we've pretty much recorded everything that we need to at this point. Also at this point I will say, if you got a banjo or if you've got a violin or any of those other folk instruments or anything like that, definitely absolutely play them and put them in the song. I just don't have a banjo. I would absolutely love to own a banjo, but I don't. Alright, so I'm just going to briefly talk about the arrangement and the mixing. If you want to see a full song mixing tutorial, definitely check out this video up here. The tutorial is centered around indie rock, but all of the same stuff applies to pretty much every beat that I make. I will show you some of the exceptions though and some of the specific things that I did. As I said, the tambourine has a bunch of reverb on it. The plugin that I use for that is called TrueVerb. That's hands down my favorite reverb plugin. I use it on pretty much every track that I do. There'll be a link in the description below to all the plugins that I use. With the slide guitar, I use my typical CLA Guitars plugin. That's basically what I use on every single guitar. If it's electric, I'm using CLA Guitars. If it's acoustic, I'm using CLA Unplugged. And you can hear on that slide guitar, I put a ton of reverb to make it very ambient. But honestly, other than that, I didn't really do anything too crazy at all. As far as the layout for this beat, I just started out with the main acoustic guitar chords. Then I brought in the finger picking pattern, brought in the nylons, just kind of bringing everything in slowly. Then I have a kick come in for the verse right here, and I have my little acoustic melody play. And then this section is the chorus where I have that chord change, and then I bring in the main lead guitar part. And I also bring in that snare pattern when this section comes in as well, just to really bring up the energy in this chorus section and make it different from the rest of the song. So yeah, there's really not a whole lot more to this beat. This is essentially all I did. You can see that making indie folk is not anything crazy, not anything wild and outlandish. There's mostly just a lot of recording guitar layers and all the little lead stuff, the melodies and everything that I put in there. If you're making indie folk that you want lyrics to be over, like you want Noah Kahan to sing over it or whatever, adding the melodies might honestly not be the best play because you want to really leave space for the vocalist to do their thing and create their own melodies. I just added them in because I like adding lead guitar melodies. But yeah, so that's pretty much going to do it for me in this video here today. It's been a little while since I've done a tutorial, so I might be a little rusty, but I hope you guys enjoyed nonetheless. If you'd like to purchase the full beat for yourself, you can check it out at the link in the description, as well as my super soft drums drum kit, which you can check out as well. As always, thank you guys for watching. I hope you learned something new, and I will see you all next time.